I'm Kaylee, and today I'm going to be talking about autumnal books. So I'm doing this video series where I talk about books through the seasons, and this video is for the books that remind me of autumn or fall. Now, I actually had so many books that reminded me of autumn that I had to split it up into two separate videos. One for the more creepy, crawly sort of books that would be more like for Halloween, and then these books that I'm going to show you today are more of the like harvest type of books. I have all kinds that I'm going to show you today, from classics and fantasy and adventure and all age ranges and all sorts of genres, even down to like children's picture books. I've just got a little bit of everything. So let's jump straight in. The first one is Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. This is about a young lady who inherits a farm, and she's trying to run the farm all on her own and prove that she can do it just as good as any man. So there's a lot of stuff in there about harvest time and like selling off their crops and stuff like that. So it's perfect for the fall because harvest. The next one is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. This is about Margaret, who moves from the south of England up to an industrial town in the north, and it's very jarring for her. The whole culture is just so different. And also she has moved from a small country village into a large town, really a city. And so it feels very bleak to her, you know. There's not that lovely nature all around that she's used to. So a lot of the attitude and just the feeling, the moods of this book feel very much like the fall. The next one is Lorna Dune by R.D. Blackmore. This is another one that is set on a farm, so there's all the stuff with the crops and the harvest and everything. This is a very complex adventure story with a lot of different characters and different settings. And it does go through several seasons. The story encompasses several years, but somehow I always think of that farm at harvest time. There's so much great action and adventure in this one. Now, of course, when I think of autumn, I think of school. So my next one is Goodbye, Mr. Chips by James Hilton. Mr. Chips is a teacher at a boys' school. And in the beginning, he doesn't really know how to connect with his students, but through the story, he kind of figures out how to inspire his students, and he leaves behind a legacy as one of their favorite teachers. This one, I'm not really sure why I think of the fall, but I think of The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Maybe it's because it's like the autumn of the elvish kingdoms and the beginning more of human kingdoms, so it's kind of, I don't know. Or maybe it's just because I think of Rivendell and Lorien, like in the fall with the leaves falling and stuff. But actually the story encompasses several years, so any of the seasons would actually meet the criteria here, but somehow I always think of the fall. The Willows and Beyond is a kind of Wind in the Willows spin-off that is written by William Horwood. So The Wind in the Willows was written by Kenneth Grahame, but then William Horwood took those characters and started like a continuation of that story. This one is actually the ending of that series, so you would have to read the other books in the series first. But most of this book is set in the autumn before the winter comes, and the characters of, Badger and Rat and Mole, they're all kind of preparing for this next phase in their lives as they get older and older. So it definitely has this kind of old autumn sort of feeling. Then I have Birdwing by Rafe Martin. In this kind of fairy tale spinoff, a young man was cursed to be a swan, but then when the curse was lifted, he was left with one arm as still a swan arm, and the rest of him is human again. So he still has kind of these instincts, like these bird instincts and stuff. And so when the autumn comes and all the birds, fly south for the winter kind of stuff, he has these strange feelings like, he wants to go south for the winter. It's a really insightful and emotional look at identity, and he has to figure out, I feel like I'm half swan and half human, and I don't know who I am, and I'm a freak, and I'm weird, and we all feel like we're a freak and like we're weird sometimes. I love the magic in this one. It's fantastic. Urchin of the Writing Stars by M.I. McAllister. This is the first book in the Miss Mantle Chronicles, and it is, I think, set in the fall. This is about a young squirrel who is born during a meteor shower, and so he has a grand destiny to fulfill. I love the depth of this world and the fantastic characters and all of the adventure and the legends. This whole series is very cool. All of the Redwall books by Brian Jacques have some kind of like harvest festival, where they're doing harvest and they are eating so many good things that it makes me hungry. And they have like the apple orchard and they go out and harvest the apples and stuff like that. It just has that very harvesty kind of feel. And I have several more books that are school themed. One of my favorites is Pippa Park Raises Her Game. This is actually a retelling of Charles Dickens's Great Expectations, but it is set in a modern setting with an Asian American protagonist, and it is so good. When I was a girl, I loved the American Girls Samantha series. And one of my favorites was Samantha Learns a Lesson, a School Story. This is the second book in a series, and Samantha feels really bad for this poor girl who is unable to go to school. And so she thinks, I'm just gonna teach her. I'll teach her everything she needs to know. And so she starts her own little schoolroom and tries to teach this other girl. And it is so cute and so adorable. Another one that makes me think of school is Matilda by Roald Dahl, because of course Matilda is desperate to go to school, and then she goes and the horrible principal, Miss Trunchbull, just makes her life a misery. Another book that I'm not really sure if it's actually set in the fall, but I kind of have fall feelings about it, is The Secret Keepers by Trenton Lee Stewart. I don't know, I just always seem to think of the characters like huddled in a jacket, you know, running through the city streets and the back alleys while it's raining or something. It just has a cold kind of atmosphere, you know, and a very chilling sort of mystery. This one is full of intrigue and mystery and a little bit of magic, perfect for reading in the fall. The next one is the manga classics Scarlet Letter. When I think of the Scarlet Letter, I just think of people like wandering around in the woods, and it's the fall and the leaves are turning orange and red and everything. And maybe that's only like one scene where they're actually out in the woods, but it feels to me like the whole book is kind of characterized by that scene where they're out in the woods. I really love that this manga of the Scarlet Letter stays very true to the story, but condenses it for a comic form, and it works perfectly. The next one is The Rescuers by Marjorie Sharp. At the beginning of this book, it is the summer, but as they go through their adventures, it starts to be the fall and they have to start worrying because it's getting colder and colder. I just love Miss Bianca and Bernard and Nils, because poor Nils was left out in the movies, and he is definitely just as important a character as Bernard or Bianca. If you've watched the Disney movies of The Rescuers, this is totally different. This is just like a whole separate thing. And then of course I have to talk about Danny the Champion of the World by Roald Dahl. Danny and his father are going out poaching. So they sneak around in the middle of the night poaching, and they have to wear a jacket and everything because it's fall and it's cold. This is just such a fun fall adventure as this father and son carry on the illustrious tradition of poaching. And then I have an early reader's chapter book, Timos Party by Victoria Allenby. Timo has agreed to host an apple festival in his apple orchard, and he finds that it's kind of a lot of work trying to put all of that together. He's getting overwhelmed with the party planning until his friends agree to help. Argyle Fox is about a little fox who's trying to play outdoors in the autumn weather, but the wind keeps blowing away his toys or blowing off his costume, and he's getting very frustrated until his mother reminds him that there is a game that you can play with the wind, and he decides to fly a kite. And the last one is The Lost and Found House. I was fascinated by this book when I was a little girl because it's about a mouse who is looking for a warm winter house. So in the autumn, as the weather begins to get colder, he starts to search around. Is there a place where he could remain warm and cozy throughout the winter? It's adorable. I found it amazingly fascinating when I was a child. And those are some of my favorite books and my book recommendations to you guys of books that give me that autumn feeling. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know what are some books that give you an autumn kind of harvesty sort of feeling. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.